Hello, Shalom Allah, and welcome to the Spiritual Life by mystic, psychic medium Travis Tidwell. That's me, and I want to thank you for tuning into my podcast. My podcast is being sponsored and directed by, first of all, the Lord God Yahweh, who is the creator and producer of everything I do and have in my life, and then I have my executive producer here with me, who is a high priestess and sacred dragon. If you've listened to the first 5 episodes, I've given some info about myself and my philosophy and how I'm using this as also a platform to share my Adam and Eve views and opinions about how we were living and how we were created. Metaphysics is a very powerful tool, so is quantum physics. In my last podcast, it looks like I was introducing prayer and meditation with dragon philosophy to change your destiny. And that's what I'm really here for. That's what the spiritual life is designed for. I'm here to put something spiritual in your life. Something that's going to help empower you so you can control and change your destiny. I mean, that's really what it's all about. If you're not doing what you want to do in life, or if you're unhappy for some other reason, then there's different ways we can fix that. There's different ways we can resolve things in life. But it always starts with prayer and meditation. And, really, I'm spiritual. I'm beyond religion. Christianity. The Christ is a consciousness. I love Jesus. He's a great teacher. He is the Lord of the Christ. And dragon philosophy is very simple. I keep it very clean. We live by the 10 Commandments. In Sacred Dragon, we have Moses in one hand and we have Christ in the other. And I feel that's the perfect balance for me, and it can be the perfect balance for you. In today's podcast, though, we're going to be talking about how we've been imported into a extraterrestrial planet, and how we're living on this extraterrestrial planet, and how we can prepare for a change in changing your thoughts about this planet and who we are. Again, I go back to say, we're all star seeds here. And, again, going back to how we've been created, there's many different stories and philosophies, and every culture with true antiquity has a story, an Adam and Eve story of creation. We're Americans, so as a culture we have no antiquity, and so that's why we try to adhere to other philosophies and religions. And there's so many different strains of Christianity. It's crazy. I was raised Catholic, which was really created by the Apostle Peter, who actually knew Jesus. But I don't want to get into that right now. I gave up Catholicism and Christianity and went back to the original source, because I wanted to be happy in my life, and I felt like Christianity was not the true medicine that God designed for us to have. Going back to the story of Adam and Eve, we're talking about male-female energy. Once they were conscious of their physical, spiritual, emotional body, the divine source Yahweh directed them to the tree of life, which would be the medicine for the balance of good and evil, or for negative positive, or for male female, however you want to describe or characterize this. Now in India, their culture has a different philosophy. They came in on ships. They have their own gods, Shiva, Ganesh. I have them here in my house. I love them. I love all gods and goddesses, but I worship Yahweh first, and that's what keeps me going. And I follow the sequence in the chain of command, which I feel is proper for us. Even in the first commandment says, "Thou shalt not worship the gods before me." But once I do worship Yahweh as the highest and most high and supreme, and glorify His name in our words, and I can talk to any god and goddess I want and be in my right, so to speak. As I always give Hermes Mercurius Trismegistus much praise in my life and love for being my main spirit guide and teacher, and has brought me this far and just brought miraculous and just gracious gifts into my life in the physical world I can share with you sometime. But going back to our podcast today, we see a lot of these TV shows, ancient astrologers and whatnot, UFO files, and these different archaeology programs, and the different things that they have found here on Earth, because there's been many species and life forms that lived here before us. I mean, that's proven. So there's no big mystery to that. And the fact is that none of us come from Earth. We're star seeds, and like I said, we've been imported. Now, in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is really just a history book for the Egyptians, they tell you right there, plain and simple, they come from the belt of Orion. Now, we are star seeds ourselves, so we all come from different places in the universe. and we come here to this extraterrestrial planet to live together. I guarantee you, everything in that ocean that you eat, if you eat fish, is an extraterrestrial being, you know? And that's the way I claim that today, and that's the way I see that. And so the more cosmic you become in your thinking, the more you change your thought forms. You know, everybody here is bogged down by their mundane, mortal problems. Gee, I don't have enough money, or I'm not getting the love life. And, you know, I'm a human being, I understand, you know. But it's important for you to love yourself more. It's important for you to have a God connection. I mean, that's why there's so many strains of religion going back there, because we don't care what you pick as long as you pick something. I created Sacred Dragon as my own religion to have my own balance, and that's been given to me by Hermes. Because what I'm doing right now is over 2,000 years old, and I've just resurrected it. And how do we change our thoughts? There's many different ways to change that. Well, first of all, we looked at facts, and we get in our rational mind. The emotional body will take you all over the board, but the rational mind says, hey, look, we come from the Adam and Eve consciousness. In the Old Testament, the Hebrew Testament, it doesn't say that Adam and Eve were fighting dinosaurs. That program didn't exist in that consciousness. So we're a different program. We go to Genesis where it says God created flesh through words. Maybe those words were just a sound, a frequency of energy. Maybe it did come from a being, a ship, or some type of energy, but it's all been divine source created. So through words, God created flesh. So, and that's why metaphysics and stones and crystals are so powerful, and have that great effect on our physical and emotional body and our mental body. If you believe that you come from Earth, then you're not in the right state of mind. Even for us to think that the sun rises and the sun sets every day, when it really does, that the Earth rises and the Earth sets. So we do need to change our thoughts and our way of thinking and our terminology. One of the things I would like to share with everybody today on this podcast is I am that I am. And that's a mantra that I use and I want to share with you today. If you sit down and do I am that I am that I am, and you put yourself in a pyramid of light. You breathe in through your nose, you exhale out through your mouth, and as you breathe in through your nose, you breathe in divine light energy into your body. Because you visualize that white flame above your head, you're in a pyramid of light. When you exhale, you visualize all negative and toxic energies coming out of your body. And once you do that a few times, then you get into your mode, because that pyramid of light comes from the Lord God Yahweh, the divine source, who has many names. And you say, I am that I am. 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 And you say that comfortably. Even as I say it now, it raises my vibration. Because when you say that, it connects you to God immediately and connects you to the wellhead of God. And by the wellhead of God, I mean the state of consciousness that lets you know that we are not the only species and beings created. Even right now with the UFO contact and extraterrestrial beings that we see, a lot of these are probably our ancestors who are visiting. You know, some cultures have been brought in by extraterrestrial or other beings, and we know that from the Enochians, the Sumerians, a lot of information that is out there, besides the Adam and Eve information and the Adam and Eve program. And if we believe that this is it, and there is no extraterrestrial, and you're going to die and go on the ground, then you must believe the world is flat, okay? So changing your thought form is very, very important. And if you're listening to this podcast, you must be open-minded. Another thing that I would always keep in mind is that staying out of your emotional body, working within your rational mind, even spiritually, is going to help advance you, keep you out of those low vibrations of energy of sadness, depression, melancholy, things of that nature. Remember to feed your brain with a good book and feed your soul with a good prayer. Those are both very, very important for you to have. And I'm hoping at some point that what I am sharing with you is making sense. There is no big mystery to what's been here before on Earth. You know, dinosaurs, Neanderthals. We're not primates that have evolved. We come from a divine source. We are gods and goddesses ourselves. We procreate life together. That's very powerful. And if anybody here, I've got 4 children from 3 different wives, and I've seen them all born, and that's just a miracle in itself. When you see a child born, life born, and when you see that, and you know that you and somebody else created this child out of love, which is what we're created from in our divine source, then you realize that love is still the highest magic on the planet. And I want I'll leave everybody with that tonight as we're going to conclude this podcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm going to have a special subscription available for this podcast, so you can become an elite member here and get more information, listen to more time with me. I want to thank my executive producer, Athena, who's also my daughter and high priestess and sacred dragon, for making this happen for us tonight, and also recording this. You can see this on YouTube at Travis Tidwell Podcast on YouTube. But yeah, it's amazing what we're doing here right now. And I also want to thank the Lord God Yahweh for all that we have in this life. And I want to promote my album, Time Has Come, which is on Spotify, iTunes, Pandora. It's all over the place. Please check that out. I'm hoping you'll tune into the rest of my podcast. I have more coming out. I'm also going to be doing a Tarot Class 101. I want to recheck my email. I think my email is just Travis Tidwell Podcast at gmail.com. So if you want to contact me at Travis Tidwell at gmail.com, Travis Tidwell Podcast at gmail.com, I will respond. And if you don't know who your assigned angel is, give me an email and I'll give you that free. And I would, and if you need some information, maybe I'll talk to you through the podcast and put it on the air for you. But yeah, if you have a question about who your assigned angel is, that's also be very important to change your destiny through prayer. Intuitively, if you feel there's an angel with you now, work with them immediately. But the more God conscious you are and the more connected you are to the divine source, the more power you're going to have. I give you that peace and love, and wishing peace and love and happiness to everybody on planet Earth, and hoping you'll check out my next podcast and continue to watch my series and contact me. We're also going to have a Patreon account coming up here, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Peace and love.